This week on Hometown Ghost Stories. Tonight, we revisit Asheville, North Carolina to cover two of its most haunted locations. Built in the 1950s, on top of an 1800s Potter's Field cemetery is the Clyde Erwin High School. It's said that the bodies were not entirely relocated, and this may contribute to the restless paranormal activity that is now reported at the building. We also dive into the haunting legend behind Helen's Bridge, which dates back over 100 years. This is Hometown Ghost Stories, Asheville, North Carolina, Part 2.
Hometown Ghost Stories contains serious and often distressing events and is not intended for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Harold had been saying hello to the Erwin High School building since the first year that it opened, roughly 16 years prior, in 1972. Every night, same thing. Front doors unlocked, lights still low. The smell of floor cleaner soon to fill the air. Harold tipped his hat as he crossed the threshold, and touched two fingers to the brim like he was greeting an old neighbor.
"Evening, folks,"
he said to the empty hallway.
"We'll keep out of each other's way."
Tom laughed at that. He'd been laughing since Harold gave him a short orientation in the parking lot. Probably too much coffee and nerves. The kind of laughing that fills space because silence feels rude.
"Who you talking to, Harold?"
"The building, same as always."
"That's one way to get fired."
Harold didn't bother explaining. He'd been with the school system since before the place opened. Since back when they fenced off the field out back and dug deep enough to remove the graves that stood in their way. The bodies had been moved, they said, properly reburied. What they didn't talk about much was the bodies that were left behind, because they ran out of money to move them. The first knock came while they were working on the hallway outside the gym. 3 sharp raps. There was no way that these could be settling pipes. Tom perked up instantly.
"Did you hear that?"
Harold kept mopping.
"I did."
"Kids. Has to be. Breaking in? Screwing around?"
"No, that's not kids."
Another knock followed, further down the hall this time. Louder, harder. Tom grinned, energized.
"I got it, Harold. I'll scare the hell out of them."
"Leave it,"
Harold said, not sharp, just in a matter-of-fact manner. Tom hesitated, then laughed it off.
"You really buy into all this haunted school stuff, huh?"
"I buy into experience."
They worked in silence for a few minutes. Then it came again. A basketball bouncing, slow and hollow, echoing from inside the gym, not frantic, not playful. Tom's grin widened.
"Told you."
Harold stopped mopping this time. The ball bounced and echoed once more, then stopped.
"Don't,"
Harold said. Tom was already pushing the gym doors open.
"I'll be right back."
The doors swung shut behind him. The hallway swallowed the sound. Harold went back to work. He didn't hear the ball again. In fact, it was eerily quiet. What he did hear, a few minutes later, was the gym door opening. Tom came out pale. He looked drained. His mouth opened, and then closed. A full night of talking had been left behind in that gym. He walked past Harold without a word, eyes glassy, steps quick and uneven.
"Tom."
Harold said. Nothing.
"Tom."
Tom didn't look back. He turned down the hall and disappeared toward the lockers. Harold finished the hallway, finished the stairwell, took his time. No sense in rushing things. He didn't see Tom again. Dawn crept in pale and colorless through the front windows when Harold went to put his supplies away. The janitor's closet door was cracked. Inside on the shelf above the sink was a folded scrap of notebook paper, written fast, almost unreadable. "This job isn't for me." Harold nodded. At least this one left a note. He locked up, stepped outside, and pulled his hat down against the morning chill. Before heading to his car, he turned back to the building, tipped the brim once more.
Good night. I'll see y'all tomorrow.
The school stood quiet, waiting for the staff and students who believed that daylight kept them safe from what stayed buried underneath. I'm Rob Coakley, and this is Hometown Ghost Stories, Asheville, North Carolina, Part 2. In 1973, Buncombe County needed a new high school. In fact, they had the perfect location. It sat right next to the current high school. It was accessible and plenty of room for expansion. There was just one little problem. The land that they were looking at was a cemetery. Not just any cemetery, but what was a pauper's graveyard. The final resting place for hundreds of people that society had forgotten. Criminals, orphans, TB patients, the homeless, and others who had slipped through the cracks. The school board estimated there might be around 200 burials on the site. They hired a contractor to exhume the graves and relocate the remains across the street. But as the process began, that estimate proved to be catastrophically wrong. By the time it was completed, over 1,000 bodies had been unearthed. Some were in proper coffins. Many were not. Witnesses reported seeing remains buried with nothing but blankets wrapped around them. People watched in horror as contractors punched holes in coffins, dragged out skulls with hair still attached, and carelessly tossed them into small wooden boxes, some only 3 feet long. One teacher witnessed something she would never forget. A coffin was opened to reveal the skeletal remains of a woman with flowing red hair, dressed in an old gown, her arms crossed cradling something. A small corpse, her baby, mother and child, buried together, now exposed to the daylight after decades in the earth. One school official recalled being stationed under a tree during the excavation, with explicit instructions to keep people away, students and teachers alike. I tried not to see what they were doing, he later said. But the disrespect didn't end with the contractors. The bodies were reburied across the street behind an elementary school, and a group of boys were hired to clear the overgrown shrubbery at the new cemetery location. Some of them got a hold of the skulls, and one morning, residents of the area woke up to find human skulls mounted on various fence posts around the community, grinning in the dawn's light. It was after that desecration, some say, that the hauntings began in earnest. Here's the most terrifying part, though. Not all of the graves were relocated. Remains still lie beneath the high school, beneath the very ground that students still walk today. Despite that fact, construction still was completed, and Erwin High School opened its doors. From the very beginning, though, something was wrong. Custodians working the night shift reported hearing footsteps overhead when they were alone in the building. They'd rush upstairs to investigate and find no one. Items would be moved from where they'd been left. Doors would open and close on their own. Former Principal Mal Brown experienced this firsthand, alone in the building one night when he heard heavy footsteps on the floor above him. He rushed to investigate, his own footsteps echoing through the empty hallways. He found nothing, no one, just silence. From 1991 to 1995, the school's football team endured a devastating losing streak. Some people began to wonder if there was a connection to what lay beneath the field. The marching band even performed a mock exorcism during a halftime show. Throughout the years, students and faculty began sharing their own experiences. The sound of humming and whistling echoing through empty halls, lights flickering in patterns that made no sense, strange noises when the building was empty that couldn't be explained. Some reported seeing apparitions moving through the corridors. One person claimed to have seen a disembodied head floating in the darkness. A teacher working in the classroom closest to the new cemetery grounds watched in disbelief as a framed picture suddenly flew off the wall. It cleared several feet of distance before dropping to the floor. as if someone had taken it and thrown it. And this didn't just happen once, it happened twice. Both times, the picture launched itself away from the wall with impossible force. Another teacher reported an even stranger occurrence. A VCR in their classroom, unplugged with no power running to it, suddenly whirred to life and ejected a tape that had been sitting inside all day, untouched and unplayed. The machine had been off. The cord wasn't even plugged into the wall. And yet the tape slid out, as if the VCR was being operated by invisible hands. Today, Erwin High School continues to educate students. The stories of its haunting continue to circulate, pass from one class to the next, growing darker with each retelling. And beneath it all, beneath the school and the football field, lie the forgotten dead, as well as the bodies that were moved from their final resting place, disturbed, disrespected, torn away from their graves and stuffed into small boxes. And now, it seems they're making their presence known. The dead do not like to have their final resting place desecrated. High atop Bowcatcher Mountain, overlooking Asheville, stands a structure that seems lifted from the pages of a fairy tale. Zealandia Castle, a mansion so ambitious, so grand, that it defied every convention of mountain living in the late 1800s. John Evans Brown built the original castle in 1889 after returning from 30 years in New Zealand, where he made his fortune as a politician and businessman. However, John Evans Brown would enjoy his castle for only 6 years. In 1895, at the age of 68, he would die at Zealandia. In 1904, the property was purchased by Sir Philip S. Henry, an Australian diplomat and art collector with a considerable fortune and an appetite for grand living. Henry wanted to transform Zealandia into something even grander. He doubled the size of the mansion, turning Brown's 32 rooms into a sprawling 62-room style manor. He added cottages, stables, and an art gallery filled with treasures from around the world. Zealandia became a palace on the mountain, a showplace, but darkness clung to it. People began reporting strange occurrences within its walls. The apparition of a woman was seen on the grand staircase, a figure in old-fashioned dress who appeared for just a moment before vanishing. Footsteps echoed through the empty hallways. Doors opened on their own. Voices were heard. Conversations happening in rooms where no one was present. Cold spots appeared without explanation. Other than your run-of-the-mill early 1900s hauntings, though, another problem would pop up for the manor. The need for coach access to the manor on the mountain. So in 1908, Henry commissioned a bridge. It would be constructed of stone with a graceful arch, and it was designed by the same architect who had created the Biltmore estate. They called it Zealandia's Bridge. But somewhere along the way, it would take on a different name, a much darker name. And with that name came a legend that would make it one of the most visited paranormal sites in all of North Carolina. That name is Helen's Bridge. Thomas Wolfe, Asheville's most famous author, walked beneath this bridge many times while growing up. In his 1929 novel, Look Homeward, Angel, he wrote about his protagonist passing under the great arched bridge, lifting his head and shouting, hearing his own voice bounce against the stone. By the time Wolfe wrote those words, the bridge had already begun to change, to take on a life of its own. And the story that would define it was spreading through Asheville like wildfire. The story of Helen comes in different versions. In one telling, Helen was a servant who worked at Zealandia during Philip Henry's ownership. She lived on the property with her young daughter, a child she cherished above everything else. One day, a fire broke out. Whether in the mansion itself or in the servants' quarters, the details blur, but the result was the same. Helen's daughter died in the flames, trapped, burning, while her mother stood helpless outside, screaming. In another version, Helen lived in a small house near the mansion. It was an ordinary day, until the fire, and Helen sadly watched her daughter perish. Still, another tale claims Helen was a mistress to one of the estate's owners. When she became pregnant, the shame and scandal became too much. Some say the pregnancy itself drove her to despair. Others say she lost the child. All these versions differ, but they all end the same way. Helen, consumed by grief, whether over a daughter lost to fire or a child she would never hold, walked to the stone bridge. And there, in the shadow of that arch, Helen grabbed a rope and took her own life. Her body found swinging in the mountain wind, and her spirit, they say, never left. Visitors report seeing her on the bridge, a woman in white, pacing frantically, her face in internal anguish. She appears without warning, materializing from the darkness. Her face is pale, drawn, twisted with grief that death could never erase. And she asks the same question, over and over. Have you seen my daughter? Some people try to answer. They try to help. But before they can speak, Helen vanishes, dissolving into the night air, leaving behind only a bone-deep chill that lingers long after she's gone. There's a ritual for summoning her. Stand beneath the bridge at night and call out, "Helen, come forth," 3 times. Some report seeing lights materializing in the darkness. Others claim to see her full apparition. A woman in a flowing white dress, her eyes hollow, her hands reaching. But most visitors simply feel watched. They feel the weight of eyes on them, the sensation of something standing just beyond the edge of vision, something waiting. Then there's the problem with the cars. Engines stall under the bridge for no reason. Batteries drain completely in seconds, leaving drivers stranded in the dark beneath that ancient stone arch. Electronics malfunction, phones dying despite full charges, screens going black, radios erupting into static. One woman visited the bridge on a dare. She stood beneath the arch, said Helen's name 3 times, and then drove away. For the next week, her car would stall on its own. Her doors would lock and unlock without her pressing the button. After a week, she returned to the bridge frightened. She spoke out and said, "Helen, please leave my car alone." The problem stopped immediately. But Helen may not be alone on the mountain, and she might not be the only danger. People have reported being attacked near the bridge, slapped, scratched, and pushed by unseen hands. One woman began yelling at the bridge, taunting and being disrespectful. She was struck repeatedly, her friends dragging her to the car as invisible hands continued to hit her. Dark figures have been seen emerging from the woods, shadows moving in the darkness that seem to absorb light rather than reflect it. Some visitors have fled down the mountain in terror, their faces drained of color, refusing to speak of what they encountered. And then there's something else. Something that suggests Helen's story might be older and stranger than anyone could have imagined. Just miles south of the bridge lies Royal Pines Mountains, and on Royal Pines, there's another story of Helen. This version dates back to the early 1800s, long before Zealandia was ever built. According to the legend, a woman named Helen lived in a cabin on the mountain with her daughter. One night, a man broke into their home and tried to assault her. During the struggle, a kerosene lantern was knocked over. The cabin caught fire. Both Helen and her daughter died in the blaze. Since then, people say Helen's spirit roams Royal Pines Mountain, still searching for her child. In 1964, a group of teenagers from Hendersonville decided to test the legend. They hiked the Royal Pines on a moonlit night and stood in the darkness, calling out for Helen to appear. They experienced something that night, something that sent them running down the mountain. Are these 2 separate stories? 2 different Helens? 2 different tragedies? Or is there only one Helen? A grief so vast, a loss so complete, that it cannot be contained by a single location. A mother's anguish that rages across the mountains, splitting and multiplying, becoming legend. No one knows. Helen's Bridge stands today much as it did when Philip Henry built it over a century ago. Now it's covered in vines. The stone arch still strong, still spanning the gap. Above it, Zealandia Castle sits among the trees, closed to the public. But the bridge remains accessible, You can drive under it. You can stand beneath the arch and call out her name. Just be prepared for her to answer, because at night, when the mountain grows silent, Helen is there, still searching, still calling out, still asking the same question that she has for over a century. Have you seen my daughter?
What is going on, folks? Welcome into Hometown Ghost Stories. This is episode number 192. We're back in Asheville for part two. I'm Jesse Wilkins. I'm joined by Rob Coakley. Hello, Rob.
We had to make a big pivot on this episode because we got such a huge response to our last Asheville episode, but everyone wanted to talk about Helen's Bridge. So instead of the Biltmore, we talked about Helen's Bridge on this one.
Does that mean we're going to get a Asheville part 3?
Eventually, but not soon. I have to move away from Asheville for a little bit, but we will get a part 3 in the future.
We're also joined by world-class voice actor Dave. Hello, Dave.
Thank you.
I thought our voice acting was phenomenal.
Rob was on point.
Those of you who are listening, Rob put in the credits attempted voice acting by Jesse and Dave Wilkins, and I took great offense to that. Great offense.
Well, you definitely attempted it. There's no doubt about that.
I would say we nailed it.
Yes. Anyways.
Yes. Anyway, so this is Asheville part 2. We'll hop into it. Huge shout out to everyone who's hanging out in live chat. Those of you who were able to make YouTube work, YouTube was down. They luckily sent us a message and said, "Don't worry, we're putting YouTube back up just for Hometown Ghost Stories." So they fixed it just for us.
Just kind of all we have.
For those of you who managed to make it here, we appreciate you hanging out on YouTube. A lot of people tuning in on Facebook because it's still bugged out for them, but that didn't stop Whisper, who threw 20 gifted memberships in on YouTube Super Chat. So thank you so much for the generosity. Happy resub day to Aussie, Eric, Nancy, and Colleen, and whoever this guy is. Some idiot in chat named Rob Coakley.
Yeah.
So congrats on being a member.
Thank you. And also remember,
it's almost like you're part of the show.
Almost like I am. Also remember to head over to Patreon. We have some new exclusive Patreon content going up this week for the top 2 tiers. It's a wild one. I don't even know how to classify it. You're just going to have to watch it and then make sure you head over to the merch store. We still have a few of our Ghost Pirate Mafia shirts and Ghost are Probably Real shirts left, but we might be doing some new fun ones the next time we restock merch. So they might be gone maybe forever, but at least for a little while after those ones are gone.
Yeah, we're trying to figure it out, but it seems like stickers are going to be a limited time thing. So our stickers were previously provided by Pops, who's hanging out in chat, and his printer died. So rest in peace to his printer. But maybe I haven't seen Taco in chat in a long time, but Taco had provided some stickers, so maybe we can reach out to him again.
I think you can make some out of human skin, from what I recall. So
yeah. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. But appreciate everybody hanging out on this wonderful Tuesday. And a little, while we have you all, not that you're going anywhere, but who knows with YouTube. So while we have you all, we have voted to get rid of our countdown. Just because people who are tuning into our videos, a lot of time they start on the countdown and they just tune out on YouTube. So we're going to scrap it. So everybody knows, everybody's here. You guys know 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're an audio listener and you plan to tune in on YouTube, make sure you're there at 9 p.m. sharp. It will no longer be 9:02 that we actually start the stream. We're going to scrap the countdown altogether, which makes me sad because I am also a fan of the countdown music, but we'll work it in somehow. Maybe in the outro or something, but just to let everybody know, make sure you're here at 9 p.m. sharp, probably starting next week. We're going to scrap the countdown, see how it goes, and, just be more punctual, folks.
Yes, we're very punctual. We never get here right before the show starts. It's always sitting here waiting.
I would argue that our punctuality is of the most precise in the entire YouTube realm. I don't think
Yeah.
they've ever really started
on
the
the
stream.
dot.
Yeah, maybe a couple, that had started a little late due to technical issues, but overall, we're
Yeah.
here. We're here.
We're great. We actually are really good about being on time. I don't think we've missed a Tuesday in 4 years, a little over 4 years. So crushing it on that front. But I think
and that's Eastern Standard Time, folks, by the way. So 9 p.m. Eastern. So adjust accordingly.
well, they know that because that's the only real time zone. Like every other time zone is just an absolute abomination to society. So everything goes off of Eastern Standard Time.
It's actually kind of true. I mean, if you think about it, the whole world kind of is based off the New York Stock Exchange, and that's Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah. So whatever bullshit time zone you live in, if it's not this one, we don't care about it.
But adjust accordingly, because we do want you here for live streams. And shout out to everybody who had to log back into YouTube or do whatever YouTube made you, all the hoops and obstacles that YouTube made you combat. You made it here. So without further ado, we hop back into Asheville. We covered this not too long ago. So if you haven't heard Asheville Part 1, just flip back a few episodes and check that out. And you can catch up on some of the other locations that we covered. We're not going to spoil it because there's no sense in rehashing a bunch of stuff that we already covered. So we'll hop into the 2 locations that we covered today. And again, if you want more on Asheville, go back and check out the previous episode. It wasn't that long ago. Like 3 locations, but 2 hauntings.
No, the Zealandia Castle. I briefly went over it because the hauntings are so kind of run of the mill, and they don't really have a person attached to them. So you don't know who it is. I know some people try to attach Helen to Zealandia Castle, but there's no evidence that it's Helen because it's mostly a woman that's been seen coming down the staircase in like elegant dress from the time period. So I think they're just trying to. I think people are just conflating that legend with the hauntings there because Helen's Bridge is there. I think if there is a woman haunting Zealandia Castle, I don't think it's Helen. I think it's someone else entirely.
Perhaps.
So it could be one of the former owners as well. We'll start with Zealandia Castle because it's pretty brief. They have like run of the mill hauntings, right? They have their footsteps, their doors opening and closing, the feeling of being watched. But one of the owners, before he actually built it, the first owner there.
We're just trying to understand. Sydney's either giving us a thumbs up or a middle finger.
I thought it was a thumbs up. That's why I pulled it. And then I'm like, oh shit, that might be a middle finger.
You did the exact thing that I was going to do, which is pull it up so we can make it a little bit bigger and see if it's a thumbs up or a middle finger. I couldn't tell.
Thank you.
So either happy or upset about the countdown going away. I don't know.
Yes. But John Evans Brown, the guy who built the house, his wife actually died in a fire in New York before building the house a few years back beforehand. So some people believe it might be her spirit, although she never actually made it to the place. Obviously, she died before it was built. So we don't know who's haunting there, but there has been reports of a ghost, and they are it's private. It's like I think it's like a museum now, but you have to like request to go in there. There's not a lot of video of it, which is crazy because the house is gorgeous. It's a beautiful house, and you would think that more people would go record there with how many people record at Helen's Bridge, but I just don't think they allow a lot of people in there. So a few people get in there, but not many in there. Not a lot of video of that place, but look it up because it's a really cool place.
It looks
so. Yeah. So that's basically Zealandia Castle. And the reason I covered that is because that bridge was made specifically for that castle. And let's just talk about the bridge we'll end with the high school because this is what everyone's here for. Everyone's here for Helen's Bridge.
Apparently everyone's here for the countdown. So let me just nip this in the bud real quick so we can never talk about it again. It's not about being on time at exactly 9 o'clock. The point is after the video goes up on YouTube, a lot of people who are tuning into our channel for the first time, they click on it, they see a countdown, and then they tune out before the countdown's even over and never actually watch the video. So this is more about just getting the content out there and just kind of cleaning up the channel a little bit. So,
yes.
But you guys are welcome to be there at 8:58 and just I mean, everybody's there chatting anyways. You don't really need a countdown. We're fine. We all know what goes on here. The countdown is basically a 2-minute timer that we have before the stream starts, but you wouldn't know Ronan Christmas because you're always late. But that's it. We're not going to talk about it anymore. Sorry. Continue, Rob.
Yeah. So let's talk about Helen's Bridge. And while researching Helen's Bridge, I couldn't stop thinking about Emily's Bridge because there are so many similar situations going on here between the two bridges. And if we had done this, and I was thinking about this too, if we had done this episode, if this was one of our first like 20 episodes, I would have got on this show and I've been like, this is all bullshit. This is a legend. There's no haunting here at all. There's nothing.
There are plenty of people on Facebook to do that for you, Rob. We don't.
Oh my
we
God.
need you to do it.
Asheville, we love you, but I mean, some of you need to relax in Asheville for sure. But here's the thing, like when we went to Emily's Bridge in Maine, you can go back in the archives and you can watch that video. We've talked about it enough on this channel. Me and Dave, especially because we got there a little bit early, we were trying to debunk everything we could. We were looking for graves. We were trying to track down origins of this story. It all seemed like legend. It all seemed like bullshit. We went to that bridge at midnight in negative 20-degree weather, it felt like.
Yeah.
And as we were going there, we were like, we're not going to get anything here. Nothing's going to happen at this bridge. And we got everything at that bridge, right? Like we got everything at Emily's Bridge. So the history behind the story here at Helen's Bridge, there's nothing to back it up. There's a lot of legends. What was that, Dave?
I was just going to ask you to clarify. You said there's nothing. I don't know if you misspoke or that was an intended double negative.
Yeah, it's just more so I meant to say like there's no historical documentation of anything happening at this bridge with a woman named Helen. Mm-hmm. And it seems like there was a legend in the area. And this is why I'm saying it's a lot like Emily's Bridge, because Emily's Bridge, there's other bridges that are involved with that. People are like, well, this isn't the right Emily's Bridge. This one over here is the right Emily's Bridge, right? Like there's multiple bridges that have been reported to be Emily's Bridge. And there's another legend of a Helen losing her daughter in a fire, less than 20 miles away from here. So in my opinion, there was already this legend that existed in the area, and they sort of migrated it over to Zealandia Bridge, which is now known as Helen's Bridge. And they sort of just jumbled up and became this legend. However, it doesn't mean that it's not haunted. We know firsthand that just because there's a story with a legend behind it doesn't mean that the place isn't haunted, and something could be manifesting there because people are going there constantly to investigate, whether it's at the base of the bridge, whether it's on top of the bridge, because that bridge is not, the top of that bridge is not for cars. That was for stagecoaches. So it's essentially abandoned now. Like you saw some of it in the video. So so we'll talk about some of the legends, but I think something could have been manifested there because of all the activity that people are trying, and it's decades and decades and decades of people showing up here.
Yeah, it could be. That's always an interesting theory too, is the people causing something to manifest just through their own energy. And I don't know how I feel about that, but I mean, it could certainly be haunted by something else too, entirely, as you said.
Right.
So could Emily's Bridge. This is almost like a carbon copy story where it's like you see a covered bridge or, a creepy stone bridge, and you just insert the covered bridge ghost story that kind of gets inserted into all of them because they look spooky at night, and you can kind of just picture something swinging there. You know what I mean? Right. So even if they're all fake, it doesn't mean they're all not haunted.
Right. And much like Emily's Bridge, and I'm sorry that we're going to keep comparing it to it because we have firsthand, accounts with that particular bridge. This bridge isn't that old. This one's actually much newer. It was built, early 1900s. Mm-hmm. And so anything that would have happened here would probably be documented. And in our last Asheville episode, we went through how their newspaper archive is pretty complete. Like we have multiple sources through a long time in history for Asheville. So I feel like if something did happen at that bridge, we would know. If there was a fire, like there's a lot of talk of it is there was a fire at Zealandia Castle. There's no documented fire there. They would document the shit out of that because of how like new that house was and how like prestigious that house was. And what a great name for a castle, by the way. He named it Zealandia Castle because he went to New Zealand for 30 years, created his own town there, and then became a politician, then just came back and called it Zealandia Castle. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, the hauntings here are, how many different stories did I tell? Like variations of the story that I tell of Helen's Bridge just in that opening? 4, maybe? I mean, they all end the same way. They all have the same beats for the most part, but it's clearly a legendary story in the Asheville area that's been passed down for generations and generations. And it became the game of telephone where, you know, somebody told it this way and it starts weaving its roots and being told different ways. But a lot of people have had experiences here. And
how many times have we seen that telephone situation happen for a haunting? You
so many.
Kind of wonder if you trace it all the way, if you were able to trace it all the way back to its original source, what that source would say.
Right. What is that original story?
Mm-hmm.
Are they even hitting the same beats as before? Because one of them is wildly different than the others. Right? The one where she's the mistress and there's no fire involved in that one at all.
Right.
So it's like, how do we veer that far off? We still have the name Helen and that's about it. And it just completely veers off. But everything else revolves around the child and a fire and her going to the bridge to end her own life. And I do like that there's a way to summon her, though. I wish Emily's Bridge had that.
Yeah, it would have made our job a little easier.
Well, it wasn't that hard, dude.
Yeah, Class A EVP.
Yeah, it wasn't that hard, I would say, to summon Emily at Emily's Bridge.
Well, the theory of like, you know, a collective mindset. So even if it is legend at either one of these bridges, like the theory of like a collective mindset kind of conjuring something up goes back ages, and all the way back to biblical times, medieval times as well. And I believe the phrase is like egregore, where this is basically if a collective mindset basically goes into a haunted location or goes to a haunted bridge and they all believe that something is haunted, then it can cause ghost-like activity to happen. It doesn't necessarily mean that like an intelligent haunting is conjured there. So the theory that if you go there and you call her name, that something will appear, that you could probably poke holes in that theory because it doesn't seem to be like an intelligent haunting. But basically, if everyone, let's just say, for example, everybody thought that my house had poltergeist activity. If everybody comes and looks for poltergeist activity due to this ancient theory, if you continuously feed into it, it can almost create poltergeist-like activity, even if it's not intelligent, like an intelligent being behind the source of that paranormal activity. So
that kind of sounds like the psychokinetic theory there that we talked about last week.
Yeah,
right?
It goes hand in hand. Yep.
Real missed opportunity when you started talking about poltergeist activity at your house to have a picture fly off your wall. That would have you should have just had that happen, Jesse. You should have.
My house is a bad example because there is like some light hauntings that happens at my house every once in a while. But you know, a bridge like this is not out of the question. If everyone's going there, and if this theory is correct, and again, it's been theorized for thousands of years that people have believed in this kind of stuff. It even connects to like watchers. So there's always been like watchers. It's kind of the same thing as an egregore. So. It's not something that we're just coming up with to say, well, it could be haunted because everyone thinks it's haunted. Like, no, this is stuff that's been a theory for thousands of years.
Right.
Pop says demon spirits are intelligent, which is true. Also, it can be not true because the demonic works off a hierarchical structure, and some of the lower level demons, as we've seen in a couple of hauntings that we've covered, are very stupid.
Yes. But intelligent enough to go to a place that people are looking for something sometimes.
Right.
So,
I mean, they're intelligent, meaning they think they're
Right.
thinking agents, but some of them are dumb.
what do you think
Yeah,
they thought
well,
of you guys'
even-
accents in the beginning?
I think the smart ones really liked it. I think the dumb ones probably agree with you.
But even the watchers that we talk about, which is some say it's the same thing as like an egregore, a lot of people, especially in medieval times, they link that back and they thought that these were actually like fallen angels. So or like guardian spirits. So yeah, it all kind of intertwines with each other.
But there is reports of people being attacked by unseen presences at this location, and they don't think it's Helen. They think there's other stuff that is haunting the woods here. Also, there's a shitload of bears around here. So if you go here, be super careful, because I did watch one video where I saw somebody come pretty close to a bear while they were there, and then I saw a lot of people reporting it in comments on Reddit and stuff, like, be careful, because like at one point there was a mother and two cubs there, and you do not want to go messing with that situation at all. So check your surroundings if you do go here looking to do some sort of investigations.
If you were by yourself in the woods, would you prefer to encounter a bear or a ghost?
Is it the ghost that attacks me?
Yeah.
I think I'd still rather get attacked by a ghost than a bear. Savannah brings up a good point. Referring to an earlier episode, it was called a tulpa, which is along the same lines. This was like a little bit later, like 19th, 20th century. They started referring to them as, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but tulpa or tulpa. But that is the same thing. Or at least in the same realm of believing.
Also, I pronounced Buncombe right, which is like the dumbest name. And it's a good thing I looked that up, because I definitely would have said Buncombe County, but it's Buncombe. Sounds gross. Don't like it. Got to change it. Figure something else out. Thanks a lot, North Carolina. Where's Petey Pablo? Does he approve of this name is what I need to know. But that is so I do have one thing. I was showing some of the newspaper articles from 1964, because they were on the mountain, not near Helen's Bridge, but where the original story happened, on the mountain that's like 15, 20 miles away. And I figured I'd share the last one. I didn't put it on the episode, but this is sort of the fallout from when people were going there searching for the ghost of Helen. And this is from the Asheville Citizen-Times, September 27th, 1964. Ghost searchers antics bring police barricade. A woman-shaped mist, the legendary ghost of Royal Mountain, has become the center of interest for a lot of people in the last 3 days. Since Wednesday night, when a dozen Henderson County youths and a woman companion reported seeing the spirit of Helen, Royal Mountain has been the scene of much activity. From the small group of 12 Wednesday, the ghost searchers grew to groups as large as 500 Friday night. So, just to pause there, this is just a week of activity of 500 people exerting energy, searching for the ghost of Helen. So this entity has been sought after for quite a while. It goes on to say, after Friday night's ghost expedition, which resulted in fistfights, arguments over the validity of Helen's ghost, and car wrecks, what was going on here?
I changed my mind. I'll take the bear.
The Buncombe County officers plan to block off roads leading to the mountain in an attempt to keep ghost hunting, fun-seeking persons off the privately owned property.
Fun-seeking persons.
They're
having a demolition derby over a ghost dispute.
They're just fist fighting and driving into each other. It's having a good time. Helen, according to the legend, is the ghost of a woman who died on a balcony when her home burned 150 years ago. She supposedly appears now when unarmed, interested persons approach her house site on moonlit nights and call 3 times, "Helen, come forth." And see, so now we can see that legend trickled over to the bridge as well with how to summon her. Whether or not she has made an appearance recently is the point of much discussion. One thing for sure is that the renewed interest in the legend has caused a lot of commotion at Royal Mountain the past 3 nights. So shit hit the fan when they were ghost hunting, boys. There was fist fights, there was car wrecks. This was
I get stressed out when there's more than 20 people at an investigation. 500, yeah, I'm starting the demolition derby.
well, we get stressed out because in a good way, where we're just wanting to make sure that like the people that come with us are, know how to use the equipment, are comfortable trying to speak to the spirits and stuff like that. That's what we're stressed about. We're not stressed about people driving into us on a mountainside or fist fighting us.
To be fair, that would stress me out as well.
Yeah. Although you can try to, if you pay extra, you can try to fist fight Dave at one of our public investigations.
And if you're not well trained like Dave is, then just hit him with your car.
That's even extra, but
we're always willing to compromise.
Thank you.
Yes. But that is Helen's Bridge. And before we move on to Erwin High School, it's people of Asheville debate Helen's Bridge regularly. I found posts throughout the years. They were doing it on our page as well. And I'm just going to make one general statement here. If you come across a post, and it's not just for Helen's Bridge, this goes for any haunting. If someone puts out the question, if you've had an experience at said location, like Helen's Bridge, can you share it with us? If you haven't, you don't got to say shit. You don't have to say, I never experienced anything. Because guess what? You're not helping. And no one cares. So shut the fuck up. Because I don't care. Let the people that have had an experience write their experience. And, don't clog down the page saying, there's no ghost. I went there 3 times. I don't have to, we don't care. We don't care. I just want to read what people experienced.
My favorite comments are the people that show up and say, I was there. It's not haunted. Okay.
Debunked. And we always just write debunked, I guess.
That's like saying, I ran into Charles Manson at a gas station. He never murdered anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I guess he didn't really murder anyone anyways, but he did convince people to murder people. That was a bad example, but you understand the point.
I got it.
We got it. Ted Bundy, great guy. It's like someone be like, I worked with Ted Bundy, great guy. Perhaps not. So that is Helen's Bridge, and we will end by talking about the Erwin High School, which I personally found to be a crazier story. That if I lived in Asheville, I'd be like, yeah, Helen's Bridge is cool. I want to go investigate there. I want to go do some digging. But why are we sending our children to a high school that is built above the dead still? What are we doing here?
At least they when they exhumed all the bodies, at least they reburied them in a cemetery and didn't just throw them in the trash or something.
Well, they might as well. Well, first of all, they didn't exhume all the bodies. They were like, we don't have enough money, just patch it up, leave some of the bodies in there.
That's crazy.
And then I was looking for the new cemetery because it's right across the road. And I couldn't find it at first. And then I found one picture of the plaque. I put it in the video, and it's fenced off, and it looks like a fenced off just piece of grass. It's because they just buried all the bodies, and there's no headstones. So once they buried, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so it's like a mass grave, basically.
Essentially, it's like a mass grave, and once they buried them, it was neglected for years until 2016, where they actually went and made it look good again. But there was one video I was looking at where the grass was 3 Daves tall. Wow. Which is one Rob.
So recently mowed. Let's take a brief moment here to welcome back Steph. Welcome back to the chat, Steph. We've missed you so.
For the applause button.
Yeah.
Yes, welcome back, Steph. But yeah, so 1970s, they're looking for a new high school. They're like, let's just build it next to the old high school. And so they knew there was a graveyard. There was a pauper's graveyard where people that had no money.
Was it Poppers or Potters? Because when I was researching, it said Potters, and I
It's
don't know what the difference is.
it's both, essentially. I think they kind of mean the same thing. If I'm just going to sit here and talk out of my ass for a second, but um, but yeah, I've seen it referred to both as well.
So a Potter's Field or Potter's Grave is a historically designed burial place for the unknown, unclaimed, often stemming from biblical references to land used to dig for clay. A pauper's grave refers to the same concept.
Right.
A burial funded by the public for those who cannot afford a private lot.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. Well, it sounds like a potter's grave is more for like unknown or unclaimed people, and then a pauper's grave is for people who can't afford it. So the public funds it.
Yeah, I think it was a mixture of both circumstances, because it was poor people, tuberculosis patients, just a bevy of different types of people that were considered lower class overall that were buried here, and they were like, let's just move the graves. And it's like, that's crazy, because you're about to build a school above where you're moving these graves.
Yeah, and it wasn't just a few, it was like 1,000.
Well, they thought it was 200. The original, they were like, there's like 200 graves here, and then they were digging and digging, and they came across like at 600, and they were like, we got to stop doing this. And they were like, we think there's like 400 or more in this still here. They're like, just
this
build
was
it.
like we were contracted for 200. We've done 6. There's still so many more at some point.
Yeah. They were just like, and they say that they're only like beneath like the football field still, and like in a different little area, not under the school.
It sounds like they have no idea
right
how expansive it could be.
I call bullshit like, on that personally. So it's who knows, but I thought it was crazy. And I was like reading the stories of when they were digging the graves, they would just put, because if you look at the area that this is, all the schools are around there. There's an elementary school right there. The old high school was right there, which is now the middle school, and just all these different locations of schools. So they would post a teacher up or a member of the faculty at a tree near where they were digging the graves, and make it so that, because they had to try to keep the students away from coming over to see them dig up these graves, because a lot of them weren't in coffins, so they're just digging up bones, right? And the faculty were like, we didn't want to look at that. And they were like, the construction crew wasn't being particularly, they're not archaeologists, so they're just grabbing bones and throwing them in wooden boxes and moving on to the next one, because they probably have to get the job done. But what a wild job to have to get done.
Yeah, and they didn't get all of them, so there was, there's probably still a bunch literally under the school, which might lead to some of the hauntings, which is kind of where we're going with this. But they also just kind of left, I think it's by the football field, there's still markers where some of the graves still are. Yeah, it's on like a little hill overlooking the campus.
Yeah. So, but ever since they built it, I mean, now we were just talking about legends and stuff like that, but a lot of the stories that I came across actually came from teachers rather than students. And I'm sure students are perpetuating it. I mean, we had that great story about the football team that had like 33 losses for the high school.
Yeah. They blamed that. They blamed that on the curse. What kind of a sports franchise expects to be taken seriously, blaming years and years of losses on a curse?
And I love that.
Yeah. Anyways, but apparently a lot of the bodies that they left are probably right under the football field. That's the location where they're like, most of the bones that they didn't even bother to dig up are probably right there and under like the concession stands. So yeah, whole football field's probably cursed.
Right. I love that during one of the games that the marching band just had a fake exorcism at the halftime show and try to, like, obviously they were doing it tongue in cheek, but amazing, right? Like that they would do that. So a lot of these hauntings though come from faculty members. I don't know where the floating head came from. My bullshit meter is a little bit high on that one. That feels like something Not that we haven't seen disembodied body parts in different hauntings, but that sounds like something a high school kid would make up.
Yeah, but it's also like I mean, you kind of alluded to it here. It's not the first time we've heard of a floating head story, right? And it fits the bill, right? If they're digging up bodies, and I assume they're not coming out in one piece a lot of times, right? That could very, very easily explain the floating head haunting.
For sure. But a lot of these do come from the teachers, where like the one with the paintings flying off the wall was a teacher just standing there, and he's like, I was standing there and a picture came flying off the wall. It didn't fall, it came out with force. And then he's like, a week later it happened again. So it wasn't just like a one-time thing. And he looked around, there was no one else there. It wasn't during a time that class was in session. Nobody was like pulling a string on him to pull the picture off the wall. But the one that really caught my attention was the VCR, because first of all, I think people our age all remember how amazing it was when you saw that VCR roll into your classroom on those
on
that station.
So good.
You're so happy that VCR was coming in to play some sort of movie that you're like, which I probably would love to watch now, but you're just like, I just want anything. Just give me anything right now. And so we had one of those stations in there, and the VCR's not plugged in, and the thing turns on and spits the tape out, and it hadn't been plugged in all day. So like, that's wild, because we know how VCRs operate. They need power. There's no power supply there. It's crazy. I would have believed it a little bit. Like, I'd believe the haunting even more if it turned on and actually set itself to the right time, because I don't think any VCR has ever had the right time set to it in the history of mankind.
No, never.
It's always 12 o'clock.
Always 12 o'clock.
And for those of you younger audience members, VCR is something that you used to put tapes into to watch movies. It stands for Very Cool Rob. It doesn't exist anymore.
We'll explain what tapes are to you at a different time.
That's right.
I just watched a video where they were asking kids what does CD stand for, and I literally just almost jumped out the window. I was like, what are we doing? Like, how are we this so far away from that?
Like, why would they know?
They shouldn't.
They shouldn't.
They shouldn't.
Like, you ask them what VCR stand for, they probably wouldn't know that either.
Right. It just.
So we don't do like cable at our house. I haven't had cable in years. We have like YouTube TV if we want to watch live TV, and then all the streaming services and stuff like that. And I don't know if I told this story on the show before, but I'll keep it brief. We went to Disney a few years ago, brought the kids, and Sydney has a CD. Hey. And while we were at Disney, they had like regular cable. My kids have never dealt with regular cable before. And they're just watching a movie. Then the ads come on, and they're looking for the skip button. They're like, there's no skip button on these ads. I'm like, yeah, this is TV. Like, it's crazy to me, because I'm just like, of course you can't skip it. It's TV. They're like, yeah, we watch TV all the time. I'm like, oh, no, you don't. But even on YouTube TV, there's still regular commercials, but they're used to like YouTube, where you just, skip the ad after 5 seconds or whatever. So
wait until you tell them about the TV Guide channel that you used to change to watch the stuff scroll to figure out what you want to watch 5 minutes before it ended.
That's what we had to watch for school cancellations on snow days too.
Yeah, crazy. Oh, the worst with that was when the commercials would come on and they would take the bar off the bottom, and they would be on like so I'm in Bridgewater, and they were doing like the A's, and then they would come back on, it would be on the C's, and you're like, why did you keep it rolling? Like, I couldn't see it.
Yeah, they would tune back in, and they would be so much further in the alphabet. That was brutal.
The worst.
It was exciting though.
Yeah, but that is Erwin High School. I mean, it's still operational today. Students go there. There's graves under their feet, at least definitely when they're playing football and losing a bunch of games. I didn't check to see if they're any better now, but I thought that was a crazy story. I thought haunted high schools, everyone always thinks that their high school is haunted, but this one has the story to absolutely back it up for sure.
Yeah. Haven't we covered Dodge City?
Yeah, so I was this comment here, waiting for my town to come out, Dodge City, Kansas. I want to say 5 weeks ago or so, give or take. Last month we covered Dodge City, Kansas. Go check it out.
Yeah, one of the mods can throw the link in chat if they can find it. Wasn't that long ago?
It wasn't.
It wasn't, but that is Asheville Part 2. If you do
However-
have a what?
Before we move out of Asheville, so you had asked me to look into Asheville to see if I could find anything, and I did. I found Asheville High School, which is a separate high school in Asheville that is also haunted. The backstory isn't as insane, and actually, I don't even know if there is a backstory to this haunting. But in 2008, in the early morning hours, the school security camera captured a shadow figure roaming the school grounds with what seemed like a purpose. And there is video surveillance footage of this. They don't know what the haunting could be. There's a whole bunch of, post hoc ideas that people kind of came up with after the fact. But I have the actual video here that I can pull up.
Is it on VCA? Is it on the cassette tape?
Yeah.
You're gonna roll on the TV and throw in power up that VCR.
Yeah. Give me a sec.
If we were doing this episode in Asheville, you wouldn't even have to power up the VCR; it would just work on its own.
Right. That's the power of Erwin High School.
Yeah.
Apparently, but this one different high school. But here is the security footage. Let's take a look.
Yes. All right. So it's showing the dark hallway for audio listeners, and now it's panning over to a illuminated hallway where there's some red doors, and now walking across the screen, and there's Charlie Glazner.
Yeah,
reporting on that. So,
probably talking about it. Is this a different angle?
This is seems like a zoomed out angle of the same thing, and they're going to show us more. But I killed the audio on it because I didn't want to hear it.
Flagged here.
Yeah.
And there's Charles again, looking good.
Looks pretty good.
That was interesting. It was like for audio listeners, it was basically like a massive shadow that was kind of moving through the hallway. I don't know what could have cast that shadow, but it looked like the building was vacant at the time. There didn't seem to be anybody in that hallway.
Yeah, and it flashed by kind of quickly. It looked like they had it slowed down, but it did it seemed to have an anthropomorphic shape. Like it looked like it could have been a human walking, and it was definitely transparent. What I will say is I saw a video like this once, and Rob, it was you who sent it to me, and it was for a surveillance video from your job at the time. Maybe, I don't know if you still work there, not really relevant either way, but it was a similar video. It was a surveillance shot of, looks like it's like a room, and a figure that looked just like that one walked right by the screen. And I was like, dude, holy shit, that's an act, like that's a ghost.
Yeah.
And you were like, we slowed it down and zoomed in on it. It was a fly that had walked across the camera lens, but it was so close that it looked almost like a transparent figure. It was just crazy. This looked similar, but what I will say was different about this one was that the shape of this one looked more like a human. It looked more like it was actually walking in the hallway, and less so like across the screen.
Yeah, right. That's pretty cool. Let's look into the history of that building and see if we have another haunted school in Asheville. But that's some pretty cool footage. $27.99 in super chat from Colleen D says, in honor of all the VCR people out there, in honor of all the very cool Robs. Thank you so much. Cool. Appreciate that.
This building that I worked at with that fly video. I don't know if we told that story on air, but the cool thing about that was, I mean, obviously, like at first we were like, holy shit, it's a ghost. And then we did everything to debunk it. But that building itself used to be where the Museum of Science would store stuff. And they stored a couple of mummies in that building years and years ago. So they had, amongst other things. So we were like, this building's definitely haunted for sure.
Yeah, definitely could be.
Yes.
Who knows what kind of stuff they stored there? Yeah, could be anything.
So that is going to do it for Asheville Part 2. There will be an Asheville Part 3, maybe a year away on that one, though. We're going to let Asheville breathe for a little bit. We are going to skip our reviews this week, but I just want to say a couple things real quick. Jesse and Dave know I haven't told anybody else really. My grandmother passed away Saturday night on Valentine's Day. And this is the grandmother whose house we used to go investigate back in the, 10, 15, whatever, how many years ago it was. So I just want to say we're very sad that she passed. It sucks a lot. She meant a lot to me. She was one of our first fans. She was very much into our ghost hunting stuff. She would tell us the stories. I know she told me and Jesse specifically. We had an interview. I wish we still had it.
Yeah.
With her, telling about some of the stuff that happened there. I want to thank her for, always being open with me about the paranormal stuff that we did. She watched this show a lot. She would never be able to figure out how to type into the chat for sure, but she definitely watched it. She told everybody about it. She was very proud of the three of us. She loved hearing about our adventures. So probably the first
live events too.
She did actually come to some of our live events as well.
To be perfectly honest with you, I mean, I don't think this show would have existed without her. It's like that was the beginning of our paranormal investigations. That was the beginning that was our first real going to a haunted house experience and getting the equipment and doing that and sitting down and talking to her about it and interviewing her about the hauntings. And obviously you had many more conversations about the hauntings than I did with her. She was so matter of fact about it that I was like, wait, I believe her. It's like I had conversations with people about haunted things before because I've always been into it. But with her, I was like, she was so matter of fact about it that I was like, oh yeah, it's haunted. This would happen and that would happen. I was like, this is so much more believable than other people I've talked to and other interviews that I've seen where people are like, they get real weird about it, which everyone's going to handle it their own way. But she was very authentic, very good woman. She will be missed greatly.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I don't think that this show exists at all without her, and I think she's the first person I ever made laugh, and I think I've made dozens of people laugh since then, at least
dozens,
but I got to make her laugh a few more times Saturday, which was will always mean something to me. So I love you, Graham. I miss you. Passing on Valentine's Day was very fitting because she was very loved and had a lot of love for everybody. So we will redo the Bridgewater episode in the coming years and, do a little bit more justice for my grandmother and grandfather when we do that one. But thank you all for the condolences. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure we gave Graham her flowers for being part of the reason this show exists.
Absolutely. This episode goes out to her. We'll hold off on Patreon and reviews until next week. But for now, this episode goes out to Rob's grandmother. Like I said, the show wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her, and she will be missed dearly.
Yes.
All right. Well, anything else, gentlemen?
That's going to do it for me.
All right. Well, you guys have a great time. Have a great night. Be safe out there, and we'll see you next week for another episode of Hometown Ghost Stories. We'll see you.
Peace.